Good evening, everybody. We are coming at you live from the Liminal Pines. Hello, it's me. My name is Alan, and this is my YouTube channel. And this is, I'm sorry, I'm just like trying to figure out how any of this works right here. I was just trying to blur the background. You don't need to see what the room looks like behind me. So you can see my cat. Um, Cameron Randall says, "When will you hit 500 subs?" Soon. We're hoping soon. I've been holding out for a big win, and my big win is hitting 500 subs. So we're gonna try and do that. Um, uh, yes, I'm also excited for the stream. Uh, Enough lollygagging. I think we do enough lollygagging on this channel as is, and I've been in a real lollygagalicious state for like the past 2 months, and we need to break out of it. Well, welcome to my stream. Today we are going to be doing, as the title suggests, we are going to be looking at pen and ink rendering techniques. The one thing that I love about drawing with pen and ink is that you only have the black of the paper and the white of the ink. And those are the two tones that you immediately have access to. But through rendering techniques, we can achieve a wide variety of different tones through multiple devious means. Just because we only have black and white does not mean that all doors are closed off. We have value. We have the lightness and the darkness of an object, though we do not have hue. So today we are going to be looking at, I have this book right here by Frank Lohan. Is he an artist? I don't know, but I do have a few of his books. So yes, he would be an artist. And he just has a general vibe of rendering that I appreciate and that I want to learn a bit from. And I've studied him in the past. So I think now would be a good time to crack that book back open and study him some more. Another thing that we're going to do before we start actually studying is, oh dear, we're going to take a look at some of the drawings in my current sketchbook because I like to treat my live viewers and my VOD viewers specially because you're taking the time out of your day to watch me do whatever this is. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that is on the plate right now, other than just doing art. Yes, the channel, as the one lovely commenter here has made apparent, the channel's almost at 500 subscribers. That's amazing. If I were to get 500 people in a room, or if I were even to get half of that in the room, 500 people would be just actually overwhelming. So just the fact that like I'm that close to having 500 people that have subscribed to my channel, that's just amazing. That's a really good feeling, and I did not imagine to be where I am now like a year ago, based on the trajectory that I was on. So I'm very happy. So thank you to everybody that is watching this, and to everybody who is not watching this. Lizard Wizard says, "Oh hey man, hello." You get to hear me ramble before the stream actually starts. I think I have all my ducks in a row. Unless anybody has any questions, do I need to explain anything about like pen rendering, about rendering in general, before we actually get like drawing? While that question is thrown out there, I'm gonna throw on some music for us to listen to. And today I have chosen the Outer Wilds soundtrack. Um, I think it's playing. If there are any of you that do not know what Outer Wilds is, it is a video game that is very near and dear to my heart, and it's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. But it's a game that is best experienced with no information whatsoever. You should just go and play it blind, just because it's that good, and you could have a lot of stuff spoiled for you that you should just experience for yourself. So I'm not going to be telling much about the game to anyone who has not played it. Sorry, it's just this little. It's this the Outer Wilds community loves to gatekeep people about like playing the game. So it's like gatekeeping, but like not gatekeeping, because we're just like, no, we're not gonna tell you. Why would we tell you about our game? You have to play it. We want you to play it, and you're gonna love it like us, and you're gonna understand why we want you to play it. That's where I am with that. No one seems to have any questions here. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drop this camera down, 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 and we're gonna show off some sketchbook sketches that I've been doing since this past week, because it's been a wild week. Not really, but it's been a wild week. So, we're gonna put us on a little screen. Well, don't worry, it's still here. Don't get scared. Do not get scared. If it's one thing I love doing, it's just messing with my camera. This is actually the my favorite part of the day, is when I just get to screw around with camera angles. And that's sarcasm for those uninitiated. Bonk. The worst thing is that I don't have like a level on my little camera mount, so if it's not flat, then I don't know what's going on. The closest thing I have is just the lines that are on my table, which I need to get the frame sort of perpendicular with. But beyond that, I am lost. Okay, I think that looks good. Let's fade. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh. Such a good transition. All right, this is my lovely, 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 lovely sketchbook. If you can't tell, since the last stream, I have done a little drawing on the front. Yep. I've done a little drawing on the front. I haven't done one on the back, but since the sketchbook has just like a paper, sort of like a paperish front and back, you're meant to do a little sketch on it. So I was all like, I want to just draw something on the front. And this is what I came up with. This little building was done with a reference just to kind of get me started, but everything else came from this little brain of mine. And it's not an amazing piece of artwork, but I think I enjoy the composition of it. I was playing around with shapes and I had a good time. I had a really good time doing it. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and show off what I've been doing this past week. We'll start on page 10, because I can't be showing off the sketchbook each week, or else it's going to get longer and longer each time. So all of this stuff, I don't think I did either of these on stream. I kind of just did them in my own free time. More if you remember last week, I said that I'm really not happy with this page because I, for some reason, decided to do this black all around it. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. The next page sort of redeems it slightly. I was messing around with a different pen, trying different rendering techniques. Uh, Not different, I guess it's just hatching, really, but um, some more faces. Remember these? I'm happy with these two. The other two, not so much. These ones are just. I need to go back and like draw some more skulls because I feel like I'm getting my head shapes sort of out of whack. Um, this one's all right. This one's all right. Really, just trying to. We were doing like facial expressions, so I was really trying to just find different facial expressions. I found out that there are a lot of facial expressions that rely on like the position of the eyebrows, whether one eyebrow is raised over the other. This right here, I like this one. Um, this one's good just because of this one just because of the angle. Here you stopped right at the girl with the hand. Yeah. This was this last week's stream? Did we do expressions last week? 7th. What day is it? The 14th? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this was from last week. I can't even remember where we left off. Okay, so everything after this point is new. See, it feels like ages ago that I did this, so I'm like I can't remember if we covered any of these things or not. So yeah. Let me get out the pencil so I can point. So I can do my pointing. I like this one right here because of just the shapes. It's a very simple sort of shape arrangement. It's like a square with a triangle. It's very nice. I like this one just because of the angle. This one, um, I enjoy when I imagine sort of like close-ups of characters. This is kind of what I have in mind. Um, so maybe not. It's a mix in between like simplification and like having the roughness of the pen with the hatching. I really enjoy this sort of quote unquote style, I guess. So I need to sort of double down on that if I can remember. Um, some more faces. Um, I'm doing the simplification well, but I feel like it's still too cartoony for me. I need to sort of like I need to reel it up a little bit. This is ironically a portrait of Kim Jong-gi right here. He drew this, so this is sort of a would I call it a study? I was really just using a fountain pen to copy his thing right here. I always feel like I learn a bit whenever I do a copy of one of his portraits. We got more here. I like this guy because of his like almost like I don't even know what you would call this. He's got like a bird like nose going on. Um, this one's all right. His face is too wide. Uh, this sketch right here is fun because I took a reference and I sort of turned their head to this three-ish quarters view and sort of imagine what he would look like from the side. That was very difficult because I had to do a lot of thought. I tried to do the same thing here, but just I messed up with the helmet. I made it too tall and narrow instead of it should have been rounder. I don't care for the facial features or anything. This right here is a chomeng. I don't even know what you would call it. A copy. A study or whatnot. I don't care for it. I think part of the problem is that the sketch looks really good whenever I do it with pencil, but then you add that layer of ink over it, and sort of the fundamentals of rendering with pencil versus ink are very different in a lot of ways. So I think I did not account for that very well. I like this guy just because of like the shape of his helmet, but like the dark silhouette of the bottom of it. I think that has some like really cool contrast. These right here are just studies of Chomeng, the way Chomeng. See, I say studies. These aren't really studies. I'm not doing like breakdowns of their things with like I'm not like writing. I should be writing if I'm doing an actual study, but I'm not here. But just sort of like I don't know. I'm trying to see how he does eyes from different angles, and it seems he sort of really breaks them down in either like a three with three lines that have not crazy harsh turns, but they're more angular than not sometimes. Or he does this thing where he does one heavily weighted swooping arch that is weighted to one side or another. And I liked it. I like the way that he does eyes, particularly because they're not too detailed, but they're big enough to be expressive. We have some more people. I spent like a couple of days just drawing people, and I got mad at myself. Um, I like this one right here. Like this one's cute, though. Like her midsection is way too high. Like the crotch should be down here, ish, like another like centimeter. That's my bad. Um, don't care for this one right here. I was trying to be quick about it. I got the height down, but the length of the arms and the angles just aren't adding up. Um, like this guy right here. For me, it's really hard to draw lips from a 3/4 view. They always just look weird to me, and I don't know if they look weird to other people, but they look weird to me. Yeah. This lovely individual. See, I'm not too good at the Loomis method because this right here, it needs some work with the proportions. I did see this one video that said you can essentially just draw like a triangle from the from brow corner to brow corner, and then down the center of the mouth to like the top of the mouth. And then if you draw like a line, it'll be right there. If you draw like a line like that, you can show how big the eyes are supposed to be, which I guess I got them the right thickness here. It's just it doesn't match the angle that I was going for completely. But if you take the angle right here, where that intersects with your eye line, is where the edge is going to be, and then the edge of your noses is going to be the other corner of the eye. And that's supposed to be a good way to gauge like distance of those facial features. Again, that isn't true for everything, but you know. This is a freehand sketch. This is sort of not using a little pencil underline, and sometimes I feel like I work better if I just go at it. Because I'm like so nervous of messing up that I pay closer attention. So this is done freehand, but like I think it did a good job with it. This right here, don't really care for. Just the line weight for the face isn't good, and her mouth is too far up. My bad. I like this one right here. I don't like the quality, the line quality, but the angle is good. Again, I doing the facing away angle is fun to do. Here we sort of I got tired of drawing people, so I switched to doing sort of like places again, just because you know. This is a frame from The Last Guardian, which is a video game from a point in the game. Um, I had a screenshot of it on my phone for some reason. I was like, you know what, I'll draw that, and it was a good exercise. And like, you can see the composition of it. You have these characters framing, but like you also have your focal point right here, balanced with a focal point right here, and there's a little diagonal line, so it suggests some sort of like emotional weight. So that was a good sketch to do. Here we have a little building, a little cottage. And other than the hatching for the roof, another thing is I've found out I've enjoyed doing the skies like with this like pink color, but also doing like a gray underneath. And so like I feel like that creates a cool, like a really cool like hazy sunset effect. This one right here is of like a little like an alleyway. I think the shapes here are fun. Lizard, you say the bottom right looks cool. Thank you. This is of another like alleyway. Um, I like this one. I do. The only issue I have is that like there's not a lot of texture in the walls, so it all looks very flat. I should have used a wobble, more wobbly sort of hand when doing these to sort of make it not look perfectly straight. So we got to consider those things. We got more buildings. This one right here, again, not the biggest fan of the ultra straight lines, but I was focusing on line weight with this one in particular because you can see some of these lines are darker on the bottom, and sort of that's I'm trying to indicate shadow with that. This right here, this is a sketch with no reference. This is all from the noggin. I was trying to do like I like drawing towers. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna draw some towers, and then I'm gonna wanted to do like a foreground, uh, midground, background kind of deal. It looks all right. It looks all right. Here I was just playing with other my ink wash brush pens because I was like I need to get it like darker, and so I have two of them. I have a higher concentration for one and a lighter for the other, just because I really like doing the ink washes. I think the gray that you get from the ink is better than uh, like watercolor. So that's what that is. Then we have this one right here, and it's sort of like a little house on a rock with a boat. And just messing with those ink washes. And that is where we are today. I thought that we'd just start the drawing with like a little like quote unquote warm up, just to get in the mood. I want to make this warm up fastish. So I'm not gonna pull up anything. I'm not gonna pull up anything on the computer here for y'all to see, but I am going to be you're gonna be able to see me sketch it from not from memory, but from, like without the reference. I'm gonna try and be faster. I need to find the right image. Sorry, I should have had I should have had it pulled up, but I don't. But I don't. Okay, I got a little thingy pulled up. We're just gonna use the little fountain pen. Let me make sure everything I have is in center. You know what? Let's zoom in a little for you. Get the light out of my face because it's kind of in my face. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't get too blurry. You can see that it's sort of the ink on the back started to bleed through a little, but sometimes you can't control those things. So I'm first just I'm gonna establish that background. You say that's better now the camera? Yeah, I need to start like getting it closer instead of having it zoomed out. That's my bad. Okay. So we got like the like rocks over in this corner here. So I'm just gonna I have a really bad habit of like outlining everything, and the thing with like pen and ink art is that you don't really need to outline everything, and that's like a habit that is hard to break. So, and by outline everything, I mean just like with a single line. I feel like it's better to sort of break it up more, like I'm doing here. That's the more mature thing to do. And that also makes it easier in the end because you can sort of like weave this outline in with like the texture. There's like a mound on top here that sort of becomes like a dome almost. There's also these little holes. Or I guess not holes, like little windows. This one's completely dark. So if there's one thing about pen rendering that I always struggle with, it's like level of detail. I feel like I'm more quick to try and just use textural effects before trying anything else. Just because like I feel like it's very hard to do like detail in a convincing way. So I stray away from doing it. That's one of my faults as an artist is just I'm not good at drawing detail. So I tend to rely a lot on like hatching and like large black graphic shapes, which is not a bad thing, depending on the vibe. And if we're talking about pen rendering, just a single line of lines like this right here would be called hatching. Just straight up hatching. um, I'm not doing this exactly because I do just find it sometimes I find it very dull to just try and like get every single detail exact. So I want to get the simplify the vibe of it without doing too much. So I'm gonna do this right here. So we'll do that. Then up here, it's sort of like this. It's like half laid stone, half crumbled stone. So just gonna do some lines there in order to show that off. Here, these arches also get a little bit of embellishment. And I'll throw in some vertical hatching here. Like that. Then we got more of these right here. Um, Again, not perfect. Because they're going around trying to like make it look like they're kind of wrapped over there. We're just gonna show here. There's a little bit of shadow from our light source. Sometimes it's hard with the paper because where it like will rise up where it meets my pen, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's like I'm trying to do hatching, but then it just turns into squiggles because the page rises up too much. That could be annoying. Fun. I don't want to. There are no windows here in my reference, but I don't want to give the vibe that these are doorways because they're not. So I'm going to do that to sort of differentiate them. Do that right there. Give that a slight one of them. Cool. For here, I'll do a little blend the transition from these two. Do that. Then we'll draw a few stones in. We'll draw some grass. See like little tufts of grass that sort of are popping up occasionally. Sometimes for like grass, it's I just like do like hatching, like little hatches like this. Not trying to like vary the position too much, just because life's too short for that. It's a joke. Yeah, see, I don't need to go crazy with that. And then, of course, we do have a slight background. Like that right there. Now, isn't that fun? I wish there was like a more of like... See, I wish there was more of a shadow coming from this side of here, but if we think about it, if the light's coming from sort of like here, there kind of would be a little bit like wouldn't there be like a sort of like a shadow coming from right there, right? Really just look kind of flat like that, right? This is all just speculation. I'm just going based off of I'm just like, okay, what could like make this look cooler? Like, maybe if we had like a big cast shadow. Does that work? I don't think that works. Because if you think about I'm trying to think. If only this side were in shadow, then the sun would be hitting it more from like its right sides. Maybe it wouldn't be cast down like this right here. Because I'm thinking of like that right there. You wouldn't have just a straight line coming from that, it would be more like over here. But you say it looks right, but you don't know if it's correct. Well, if it's giving the vibe that it's correct, we'll take it. We'll take it. It's not 100% correct, but uh, that's a learning experience. Make it a bit darker. There. Hey, okay. And just to stay consistent, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the background with some gray ink wash. Technically, this would be considered part of rendering if I'm using an ink wash, but this isn't pen rendering. This is brush pen rendering, which is, I guess, categorically different. But I do just love how saturated the pigment gets with ink. Probably gonna bleed onto the page behind it. That's okay, because it's just black ink back there. Is that? That's fun. I do like the graphic design element of like drawing. It's not that I want to capture like realism to a T. I want to like capture like a feeling more than anything, and sometimes you have to sacrifice the realism in order to do that. And give that a little. Shake this off. Cool. All right, let's do another one. Let's do another one. We're gonna I'm thinking either I can do something more modern or I can do something not modern. But I think I found something here that I like to do instead, just from a composition standpoint, like the vibe of this. I gotta be very, what's the word? Very economic with my strokes here to make sure I don't mess up the perspective on some of these things. Does that right there. And it does have a sort of this going on here. Then behind it, there is this, but it's not very. So we're gonna level of detail. We're gonna strip it back quite a bit, reduce it to shapes. Same with there's this going on right here, and it's sort of at an angle up here to over here almost. So not perfect. That's okay. We can call it 4-point perspective if we get any uh, any silly with it. I think this right here. It's sort of opening up a little. Okay, we got these going on over here. So we got one here, one here, and then one over here. What I mean by all this is we got trying to be a bit looser with this one. I didn't mean to do that. We're gonna ignore that one. Trajectory on that a little messed up. You say you don't do it with a grid? No, I normally would do it with a grid. It's just for like this is really just like a warm up. So I'm kind of just like I don't know. I'm trying to warm up the observational skills. But part of that is sort of like trying to imagine a grid in my own head, which is the easiest thing to do uh, by a long shot. I'm gonna try and go in. We're gonna add some rendering over it. Like for this right here, this would be like a 2-point perspective grid. Because you have like a tilt uh, in the frame, which means that we're seeing like, there's almost like a box. If you imagine this room as like a big box. See, I could do like contour hatching, but I don't want to, not here. Not right now. And the paper keeps on rising to me, which is annoying me. Okay, I'm gonna do a and I'll probably for this bit back here, since this bit we're seeing more perspective on. I'm gonna try tilting the hatching and see what that does. that wasn't perfect. Okay, so now if we were to like imagine like this with a grid, it would kind of be like this is like a line, like our vanishing point. One of the vanishing points is like right here ish for the floor I'm talking about, or if we were like going on like a 3 point almost. So it's like almost like up there. This is just for the floor too. A little foreshortening in there just to show that off. Yeah, okay. Okay, I see it. This is we're not doing too much detail here. But we'll go in with our our ink brush and sort of do the outside as well while we're here. One of the fun parts about ink is that like it's a very forgiving medium, not in its permanence because it's like you lay down a stroke and it's down forever. You can't really erase it. That's pretty nerve-wracking, I guess. But if you really think about it, it sort of inspires you to sort of be a bit more laissez-faire with things. So like it's good to be more chaotic when you're working with pen and ink because it translates very well, like sort of the permanence of it. So you can do a lot of fun texture stuff, and maybe it's not 100% clean per se, but it can look really good. Say, is it bleeding through the paper? Um, it probably is slightly, but there's so much ink on this side right here that we're not able to see it, but I'm feeling it. And it's a little bit wet on this side. So yeah, it probably is. I would bet that it probably is. Um, I'll go ahead and don't want to use that one. Go ahead, I'll ink up or I'll ink wash this center beam as well because it is further back than the rest here and it's a bit darker because of that. What's nice about this paper is it's I think it's like 160 GSM, so even though it's not watercolor paper, it can still hold quite a bit of wetness before it does start to properly breed. Though alcohol markers, Copic markers will still certainly bleed through, which is a pain for me because I really like using markers. I just don't have a sketchbook that can handle them. I think Ohuhu makes sketchbooks that can take marker without bleeding through to the other side, or I could just like reserve one page, put a thing behind it, and call it a day. But that's a waste of space. If you can tell, I like to sort of use each page to be almost full. I don't like doing just single one sketches on one page if I can help it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll mark these as warm-ups. Warm-ups. Okay. Let's get into some theory, okay? We're gonna be doing a little bit of more observation next with this next bit. So I said at the beginning of the stream that we were going to be taking a look at Frank Lohan right here, because he has some very good pen and ink techniques. So you can sort of get a peek at sort of what he does as we're moving through. He's very much so more not detail oriented, because he does use a surprisingly little amount of detail, but he is very like texture oriented. So it's how can we use repeating textures to give the illusion of detail, but in reality it really is just a lot of like black and white. Like I think I did a study of this one here before, and if you do really break it down, he does use a lot of just like simple hatching and cross hatching. It's not very often that stippling does come into play, though it does sometimes. It's a little goose. Doing the feathers, I think, is a very cool way to do the feathers without having to like draw the feathers themselves. If there's one benefit to the way that he does things, is he does erase the need for outlines a lot of the time. He lets the hatching create the outline itself, which is very, very, very smart. Yeah, I think I wanted to look at this here today. I wanted to look at this, the way he does this tree here in particular, just because I think that that looks really cool. And I do like drawing nature. I know we just weren't drawing, nature just now, but do believe that this will be a fun to do, so I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna pop that like here, I guess. Heck yeah. Okay. I think that's good enough. Is my hand gonna be covering this too much? I'm gonna try and not cover it as much, but if I have it on the other side. I'm gonna see if I have. Maybe that'll be better for you guys. I won't be able to zoom in as close, unfortunately, but maybe this will be so you can have a clear view of this right here. So we're gonna go ahead and so let's go ahead and do a little like analysis of what he is doing here. Exactly. So I'm sure he spells it out right here, but we're gonna ignore his little foreword right here, and we're gonna use our own intuition in order to do it. So the first thing I'm noticing right here is we got no outlines. He really is letting the form sort of emerge through simple hatching. You see, but if you we'll mark this right here. We got simple hatching, but if you are paying closer attention, you'll notice that these hatch marks have a slight curve to them. That's what we would call like a cross contour. I'll just say contour right here. And what contour essentially means is whenever a line follows the form of an object. So if you can tell with like these elephant tusks right here, they curve because the tusk has a cylindrical form. Therefore, if you use these curved lines, you can give the illusion a form with a cross contour without actually fully rendering out the form, which is very genius if you really think about it. Um, Another thing he does right here is he does like these little splotches, these like denser splotches in order to show like value changes. Because this is a birch tree, of course. Um, and you can see him use that, especially down here. You do have shadows, which it looks like it's using vertical hatching, so cross hatching for these shadows. We got a cross hatching of shadows right here. Um, Another thing that he doesn't use it frequently, but you can see a lot of this hatching. It's either this like vertical right here, which is in contrast to the horizontal hatching right here. And another way we can sort of give the illusion of like depth or detail is by doing this cross hatching and sort of breaking away from this. We have the established pattern of these horizontal lines. We break that pattern with the cross hatching. Or in this case right here, we have a diagonal which completely breaks away from our horizontal right here. So the diagonal form, it shows us another form in a sort of like a low contrast area. And he sort of uses that here as well, like right here, right here. Not kind of right here where it's like darker and straighter. That's a contrast as well. So we're gonna take all of those notes right here, and I'm going to pull up on my end here just an image of a birch tree. And I'm gonna try and replicate that. I'm gonna try and replicate this without copying directly from him. So we're gonna take these things that we observed here and we're gonna try and move it onto another drawing. I'm looking here. See, birch tree is probably my least favorite tree in Minecraft, but in real life, birch trees are actually really cool. Looks like they're called paper birches, I think. Okay, I've got my image right here. And just, we're not going to freehand this one. I am going to sort of, because I'm not the best at maintaining, I am not the best at maintaining straight lines all the time. But I'll try and do it right here. Do I need... I probably should limit this, like limit this to a sort of frame here, just because I like things to be neatly contained. We'll extend it down a little bit to make it slightly wider than the others. So we still should be able to fit two on here. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna try and I'm gonna just lightly, very lightly sketch out the trunks here, along with its splotches. and sort of down here. It's a mess of foliage. I wasn't. Do you want me to show the reference? I can show the reference. I wasn't trying to show the reference, but now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should just show you the reference. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. Yeah, I will now that I think about it. I was being stubborn. Um, Here, I'll just pull this reference right here. So you can see. So we're going to be doing the rendering techniques of the left reference right here. And the reference is not gospel per se as far as like getting all the details goes. I really like trees are so varied and so different that we don't need to get all of its like little bits and bobs. It really does look like there's not a lot of trees in the foreground here, which is good. I'm not going to do all of them because I don't want this to get too crowded, but we can try and experiment doing a level of detail thing with this. Back here. Also got another one up here. One thing I really like about trees is their patterning, if that makes sense. They have like this like vertical they like create this like vertical pattern. Shit is really cool. I don't want to get them like too like uniform. I don't know if trees are normally that wavy. Yeah, they can be. It looks like they can be pretty wavy. Okay. And another thing, I found out no way to show reference, or is it always like that because it looks better? We only see the image itself, which is good. Yeah, okay, so I've done this in the past. This is just if we're going based off of OBS, this is a like a screenshot. So I just import an image. The only issue with this right here is that I'm just downloading a ton of images to my computer, and then I don't obviously want to keep them in my downloads folder, nor that I do I want to keep them in my just like on my computer. So I have to go through and delete them afterwards. And I'm just lazy. So sometimes I just don't bother with it. You'll see me do this occasionally. I can start doing this more if it is beneficial. It's definitely easier for me to manipulate, and I guess it does look pretty. It does look better. So I can do that more often if that would enhance your viewing experience. If you would prefer that. Um, so I'm gonna try. Some of these have like bigger white band, like bigger black bands on them. So Yeah, like that right there. It can get annoying over time because you get stuck with files. Yeah, I mean it's not a pain. It's really not that difficult to go and remove files. I'm just lazy sometimes. But we all know that. I like what he does right here with sort of this on the ref or on his thing. He sort of does this thing with like a broken branch. I really like that. So we're gonna do that there. Same thing with this right here. He sort of has this branch going like that. I want to get too in the with the foliage. You know, I could sit here and render like leaves and stuff constantly, but just give like a little snippet of it here. From the back right there. Hello, you can't watch this live stream today? No, Joe! Thank you for popping in to saying hi, though. I appreciate it. Even though you're not able to stay and watch. I do thank you. Maybe you can check it out. You can check it out later if you want. Also, I like this tree not having any branches on it. So I'm trying to find out like bits and bobs that I like off of Mr. Lohan's thing here. I want to keep like the foliage sort of. I don't want to go crazy with it. Could go crazy with it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think this is a good base. So here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do some. Where should we? I'm thinking of having a light source from one of these. We're gonna imagine a light source. I think I want to imagine the light source coming from sort of from the its back left, our back left facing that right there. So that's what we're gonna do. So that means that our contour hatching is going to be here. Try my best to keep it somewhat curved, to try and curve it. And for these leaves up here, I'm just gonna sort of just do that right there. So we got our little cross contour right there. And then, of course, he uses these vertical hatches. And see, the genius thing with sort of using these black splotches is that you can sort of define the edge of the tree without without having to draw any actual lines. And of course, we have that little branch right there. Then back here, We have this like dark, we'll do a little dark branch. So yeah, that's one of our trees right there. And we'll just do the same. Let me make sure that I am playing not copyrighted music. Yes. I gotta make sure I put this on loop. Well, technically this is copyrighted music because it is video game music, but it is video game music and that is less likely to get copyrighted. Go support the game though. Up into the camera. I don't want to be too. This tree back here is not very. We don't need too much detail with that one. Same thing with this one right here. I'm really thinking with this one we don't even do a lot of too much contouring. We just really do mainly dots. This is a very thin tree that occasionally has like some little bits and bobs. Trying to show a little bit of foliage at the top here. So the curve doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to have a slight curve just so we can show that this tree trunk does have a round form. Like that, right there. Then the fun part happens. We don't need too much hatching, like cross hatching for like a deep shadow because this we are making up a light source here. Obviously, there's not really much of a dark shadow anywhere. I'm looking at low hands here. He does a lot of like little tiny ones with that. Some big, beautiful birch trees. And this one right here. Kinda nondescript. Cool. And we'll just go and sort of fill in nonsensical background shapes. A lot of the times I do like rendering foliage as sort of just a little squiggles. I find that it has a bit more character than like trying to like draw realistic shadows on every single piece of like grass. Cool. And that's our little scene. We could do some more hatching in like the foliage here, but again, I want to keep it simple, and that's not really the focus of this here. Give the border a little erasing. We'll see how that's did. See how it looks without the lines. Does it look awful? We're about to find out. Let's see. How could we improve this? Is it just that maybe I do need to go through and add just maybe what's needed is just more cross contours in some spots. You're like, wait, move the. Oh, wait, never mind. See, I'm sly, I'm slick, I picked up on it. I'm learning. I do like it. I do think he is using a finer pen than I am, so like his some of his hatching is a bit closer together. He is also doing. I guess maybe for like this tree we could like go ahead and do some of it, but he is doing a lot of like vertical hatching like this right here. You know, it's doing a good job of showing that we're in like the shadow side of the tree. Not that it's just the contour. because some of these trees aren't as thick as they need to be. That's a bit better. Yeah, I think what was just getting me was the cross contour lines for some of these thinner trees. Like it was making it look like it was the entire tree and not just part of like half the tree. So that is a bit better. Okay. I like that. We'll go ahead and we'll mark it up. Okay. Let's go ahead and how long have I been streaming? An hour 33. We'll go ahead and we'll do one more, just because um I don't want to spend all night doing this right here. Currently, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at our poll. Currently, our poll has 3 votes. What is your favorite rendering technique? 2 people have voted cross hatching or hatching cross hatching, and 1 person said cross contour lines. Fancy 1 person. Overall, look good. The rendering. Thank you. Thank this guy for coming up with like the rendering before me. I'm sure he got it from somewhere else. Okay. This would be fun, but that's crazy detailed. I mean, I could. There's a lot going on there. See, I do want to keep it a little bit simpler. He does display like a very like important aspect to rendering right here. He talks about having light dark light dark light dark sort of in your with your rendering if you're doing like dense backgrounds to give like layers. And what he means by that is like you have the dark trees, light trees, dark trees again, like light below it, and so that helps separate the layers so it doesn't just turn into a large visual mess. Joshua trees. Those are neat. Subjects from life. Like that right there. See, he's doing that thing again where you have all of the vertical hatching, but then you have some horizontal for some contrast. I don't know who that is. A downed tree. This way of like rendering like foliage is very cool. We'll look at this at some other day, but it's very 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 neat. Do like the way he does forest scenes. See, he does that shrubbery thing where it's all kind of just like a bunch of like repeated shapes. We'll go back to the beginning. About that. Nostalgic subjects. I want to do like a building. I like how he's talking about like focal points and composition. This is a rendering book, buddy. We don't need to be talking about composition. Do like this, but I think I want to try my hand at sort of doing like a wooden shack, kind of like this right here. So maybe not everything around it, but just sort of doing like a wooden type shack. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna where again we're gonna get out our pen and start marking things that we know right here. So we'll start over here. So first things that I'm noticing are clear defined shapes. He's using very clear defined shapes here. Instead of you trying to like do every single board uh, in detail. I should mark with pencil if you're gonna regret there's no way back. Nah. I I like to live on the edge. I mark up a lot of my books. So that's okay. It'll be fine. Uh Another thing we have here, we also there is like another like you have an alternation right of light and dark. You have a alternating light and dark. See, like with that right there. But then you also have mark it down here. You have a visual unity. There's like this like visual unity that you get with the vertical hatching here, right? Um, Another thing that I find interesting is sort of right here. Areas that are in complete light or are complete dark, like lose detail. So if something is very bright, there's sort of like we start to lose detail there. That's just with these right here. I know he doesn't necessarily do that here, but I do think that that is something that we can learn from because he sort of does it like right here. Um, Maybe not right here, but sort of like when with areas that are like very 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 bright or very 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 dark, they don't get like the high detail treatment. So I think that's something that like we can like learn from here. Um, Look at this right here too. Again, I am seeing a lot of just visual unity with the boards here, but like also I'm seeing lots of pockets of like unified shadows. So like it's this falls in line with like the clearly defined shapes, but this is what we would call shadow mapping, where we sort of group up clusters of shadows together. Same thing like this would be considered like shadow mapping back here, but it's sort of like our big shapes instead of like trying to do a lot of detail. It's like you group up large shapes of shadows. So if you squint your eyes, you have like this little shape here. You have this, sort of this, and this right here. And then the rest is sort of like falls like somewhere in between. Okay. So I think learned a lot there. I'm trying to pick out what else we got going here. For like the roof, again, there is another like there is more like contouring happening here. So you do have your contour lines that are following the slope of these roofs. Same thing with the little overhang of this roof right here. You have your vertical hatching that's following the perspective of this roof. Same thing with this fence right here and the tree, of course. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll do like a instead of doing like a full scene like this. I'm gonna find like a close up. It is fun. So like in comparison to like these right here, um, these don't have too much contouring going on. Um, and there is like there is more outline happening, and that's what I like about this right here is like having no outlines makes it feel cleaner. And it sort of like it emphasizes the shape of the object more than anything, and I really like that. So we're gonna look up I'm literally just searching up pictures of like wooden shacks. But you want to know what sucks? Finding pictures that aren't AI is becoming increasingly harder. Or that or some of these shacks just aren't real. Just funny. Like they're like artistic renditions. You can almost sort of sniff out if something is AI. The sort of the shadows don't look right. I think I think we found our contender, but I'm trying to see here if this is AI generated. Or the hands? What do you mean, or the hands? I'm sorry. Or the hands sometimes? I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Oh, no. Oh, wait, you're talking about AI. Sorry, I forgot we were talking about AI for a second. Yes, yes, with the hands for sure. AI doesn't know what to do. Sometimes it'll put two hands and it doesn't know how fingers work, which I find equally humorous. Yeah. Let's save image to download. All right. Though I will say AI is getting better at doing hands in a lot of different things too, which is very scary. Here's what we're going to do with this image is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to crop it. We're going to give it a little bit of a crop. I know there's a way to crop it on here. It's not transform. I know there's a way to crop it. Oh, I think I just have to hold Alt on my keyboard. Stupid. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of how I'm gonna frame this. Because I want to get sort of this little bit in here. Trying to think about our frame here. I think like this. I think this is sort of the framing I want to go for here. So from like there up is what I'm wanting to do. I'm actually going to pull it up for myself on a different screen. Ugh. Okay. Let us go ahead and get started. We're gonna do a small little underlay sketch. Correct. And then we're gonna do some quick shadow mapping. So if I'm looking at this as like just a cube, I see one face of the cube right there. And then I see another that's sort of going out over here like that. But there are shenanigans. There are shenanigans happening, unfortunately. So we do have sort of this little bit right here that's protruding. And of course that is nearly parallel with this right here since it's connected to the same thing. Right? But it goes out a little bit further this way. So kind of looks like that right there. It's kind of how that shape looks. And then it is going to come down, right? It's sort of, well, that's not on the very edge. You know what I mean? This is going to be like sort of like right there. And then where that corner meets that corner, this like comes down at this angle. It's a pretty, this angle's like pretty on with that right there. Pretty close to that. Maybe redo it to be more like that, which is fine. So then that also extends that way a little. And then we reach another sort of like that little bit right there. And then it sort of goes down again one more time. And then it sort of like goes around. There's a lot of overhang with that. And then we also have this little pipe coming up here. That comes down pretty far down there. There is like a little stick here. Same thing down here. Like a stick running through there. There's like these little boards that go here. I feel like I'm getting lost in the details. I need to focus more on like the actual this right here. I do like this little door thing or not door, window thing we got going right here. Go ahead and sketch that in. Very dark. What's important though is that we sort of got this thing that I was wanting to do, and that is sort of having planks. Like that right there. Then it sort of gets dark over here because of things. And we'll just say that goes in over there. This window here is completely dark. And then interesting thing is happening right here with this. So we'll go ahead and we'll almost just barely drawing that. This window is almost flat because we're starting to curve down like that. That's sort of where we're like imagine like the horizon line being generally right there. We got this bit right here. We'll just say that's our horizon line. If that's the case, then horizon line can be used for that. We'll go ahead and find the center of this. It's perfect because it's like right there-ish. And we're just gonna go ahead and there's like this like little, you know what you would call it, like a herringbone pattern. Moving vertically. Like that, right there-ish. Then this up here has a weird thingy on it. I don't know what you would call this. Smokestack? Wood smokestack? Yeah. We'll do that thing here that like Lohan does is on the edge we'll have like a sort of like a thickness gap thing going on. Got some stuff going on in there. Okay. Let's show off. It's a chimney? You're right. I don't know the words. I don't know the words. The chimney. the chimney. I know I could add in this like window and stuff right here, but like I don't want to add in too much detail, you know. So we're not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna try and find out where like where we can start doing our vertical lines and our horizontal lines. And I think one place we can start, obviously, is said chimney. I think we can go ahead and if we look at these right here with his like sort of his vertical objects, especially since things that are almost like looking like a trunk right here, we just do sort of a contour lines. And of course our horizon line is right here-ish. Forgive me if this isn't perfect, I am doing this at an angle. Because of the camera. Right there, and then when you get below the horizon line, it starts to curve the other way. That will be a good perspective clue. We love imperfect here, of course, especially when we're working with pen and ink. Imperfect is the name of the game. I'm gonna darken some of these bits because some of them look like they're like a bit darkened. That right there. Give them a little bit of texture there. Then we have this thing up here, the whatchamacallit, the chimneys. Then it becomes light again. Like that right there. Another thing I'm seeing is that another opportunity that we have in order to do sort of like some more contouring are our little like beams that we got going right here. So like I'm mainly looking at like this beam, and then we have sort of another one that's coming out of the corner here. So like if we were to, this one like is falling. It's like coming out of the wall here. I don't know exactly how to describe that. And then of course we got this right here. And if I had a finer pen, this is not a fine point pen here, I could get a better level of detail here. I apologize for not being able to do that. He also does this thing where like if something is moving at like a diagonal, he will do like a little outline for it. So we'll go ahead and do that there. But a lot of that is also going to be shown off by, we're going to do some hatching underneath here. That right there. Okay. So I'm looking at these boards here. He does really long vertical lines for wood. And then for the bits in between, he'll like do go darker. So for like these right here, it's like occasionally he'll have like a really dark line. Another thing he does is he sort of sort of shows off the imperfections in the wood. Of course, these are little vertical bits, so we're gonna show like there's like little like cracks in the top. That could be very fun. And then for the edge here, we are just gonna sort of there's a dark area right here. We are gonna let that do all the talking there. Sorry if my thing was covering this here. So is that. Okay, so I want to go ahead and define out this window space. I want to define out the window space with sort of, I'm going to do a very light sort of outline here. But this is all going to be hatched in. However which way I see fit in order to get it dark. So there's that right there. We have our dark window, but then we also have sort of this thing right here, which is, see, he does like sort of this contouring with sort of these like slanted forms. So we're going to do the same thing here. Like that. Right? Then we're gonna, because this is like almost like a little corrugated roof, I'm gonna do a little bit of like, make it look a little roundish. And then I'm gonna darken in sort of the spot underneath it. Like that. Then what I'm gonna go ahead and do is, well, I guess fill in this a little bit too, because this bit is also sort of corrugated. I'm not gonna, since it's facing more our direction, I'm not gonna try and do too much like twirling. Let's do that. Okay. Sorry. And I can sort of have a bit of a wobblier hand here because this is like wooden planks. So like what we're really doing here is imitating the grain of the wood, right? That's what we're doing right there. like that, right? And then for everything underneath this is just gonna be dark. We don't need detail down there. It is not the focal point. That's gonna be underneath, like in shadow, right? Um, yeah. Go ahead and, since these are like little diagonal shapes, go ahead and, since they are diagonals, I'm going to outline those out. And then for the roof here, for the outline of the roof, I'm trying to create sort of an imperfect outline because I don't want it to look too neat. Definitely not here. We're gonna play up the sort of jaggedness of that. Okay. Another thing I want to do is for the underside of this roof here, I want to contrast these little poles that we got sticking through here. And I think the way that I want to do that is by just doing hatching. So we can tell the direction the hatching is coming from, but it doesn't mess with it doesn't mess with the perspective because we're following those perspective lines. I'm gonna do that all the way down. If any of you would want in the future, there are many other pen and ink artists out there. If you have any recommendations for ones that you would like to see me do some studies of, I would love to hear. There's of course Dore, famous for his Dante's Inferno series. Um, there's like manga authors that I'm very inspired by that do really great, lovely, lovelyly rendered environments. Uh, Comic artists. Can take a look at some comic artists. That's fun. I really like that. We'll also, for this little section over here, I'm trying to think. That is above our horizon line. So we can darken that up if we really want. With that right there. Wood plank. Wood plank. And then darken that up. Same thing with that as well. And of course, with this back here, this is more of the slanted roof. And there's a lot of junk going on down here. I'm just gonna show it off as another black mass. Nice. So here's what we're gonna do a very not we're gonna do a similar thing that we did with the wood rendering here. We're gonna have our sort of dark lines like that that are a bit thicker to show the gaps in between the wood. I'm just gonna go ahead and cross hatching here just to show the edge of that. That's just a personal thing. Nice. And same thing with like these chunks up here. Because these are little boards of wood. Yeah. All right. Maybe these boards are a bit lighter than these boards, so we're not gonna do the lines as dense as we did over there. Maybe about 2 per thing. That right there. Then of course down here, we'll just go ahead and darken it out. Because we don't care about any of that down there. Darken that up. Wowee. Wowee. How's he doing his foliage behind? Sort of doesn't really try and show too much of it. I think it would be fun to do like a gap here, you know what I mean? So we'll do sort of here, that. The same thing over here. Show like the outline of the trees. Because there are like woods back here. Dueling foliage is fun. You're doing the environment too? I'm just doing it. I'm kind of just I'm doing it very very lazily. Seems like Lohan will do sort of these little scribbles for like darker parts of the trees. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of that. Don't want to get too crazy. And he'll sort of like okay. Very nice. Let's go ahead and let's get to erasing our borders here. Making time for some of this ink to dry for bits that I just did. Of course, it's not gonna matter so much in here. Okay. What do we think about that? What do we think about that? Obviously, it's very messy. I'm gonna sneeze everywhere. Obviously, this is very messy, and my lines are not the best. That much is very obvious. Other than that, I'm squinting and I can like tell the planes from each other, which is good. Like I can tell where this is and this is. Um I'm just maybe this just needs hatching all the way through. Maybe that's what that needed. When I think about it, it is sort of like, it is almost a focal point of this whole thing. So for it to be darker is not a bad thing necessarily. Just, yeah. I feel like I did learn a lot here. I could have, I definitely could have benefited from using a different thickness nib on this. Just don't have access to it. I do have some microns, but I just do not like the way that those work on like paper like this. Microns are all right. You know, it's like I do have a ton of them. I like the brush ones a lot, which is a very odd thing to say. But I mean, I do have like these little colored ones that I use sometimes. I don't, I like black and white. I really do like black and white. Don't worry about it being messy because it's planks. I think it's supposed to be messy. You know what? Thank you. That makes me feel a lot better. You're right. I mean, it is supposed to like be kind of like weathered looking. Um, Also, I didn't choose the easiest subject. I did have to like choose something with like a slanted roof, so I had to account for a lot here. But yeah. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about everything that we've talked about here today. Go ahead and turn that off. Okay. Let's take a peep at the poll again. We got 5 votes now. We got 80% hatching cross hatching and 20% for cross contour lines. That's very, 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 very nice. Okay. Allow me to place my book back in its little cubby. All right, so let's turn this into a lesson. What exactly did we learn here today? I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna end the poll because we're gonna end the stream here after we do this little bit. Yeah. Good job, everybody. Thank you for everybody who voted that. Okay, so what is it precisely that we learned here today? One, we learned the importance of cross contouring when it comes to depicting form. I think that's something that like I just disregard sometimes. Is like sometimes I'll just be hatching and I'll be hatching without sort of like this right here. There's no indication of form whenever I'm doing some of this hatching. But this right here, you can do that stylistically, but that doesn't make it look good all the time. Style should be developed with intention, I think. But that being said, I think I learned a lot with this. I feel like I learned a lot about like you don't need to do outlines around everything. Around absolutely everything. Like with so okay, so take for example for this right here, this little section right here. Clearly, that is a shape of like this is like a little window sill, right? Technically there's an outline here, but if we just imagine this is just like completely black, it just has some texture. There is no harsh outline here. And even though it is a little jittery, it still looks better than if you were to have a straight like black line. If that makes sense. So I think that worked out very nicely. I I think those are my two big takeaways from here. Oh, I guess just like contrast, having like vertical lines, contrast with diagonal lines, contrast with horizontal lines. I think like that is very important here as well. I think that is able to communicate a lot about sort of direction, shape, and form. That, of course, requires you to pay more attention to like details, but I feel like the end result is just slightly more nuanced and just like has the ability to take something that like would have been visually uninteresting and flat and to sort of to give it life. So I think like that's like the big takeaway here is that rendering is giving you uh the ability to just like spice up what would otherwise be a simple drawing, and it's sort of like it's the craft, right? It's the craft of it that is so alluring because you have to do a lot of planning and consideration whenever you're going at it from this angle. So yeah, um I will be I will be incorporating some of these techniques, or I will try to incorporate some of these techniques as we go uh into the future. Obviously, I like doing a lot of like far away sketches of buildings from like a distance, because I do like architecture and the shapes of buildings. But for like little close-ups like this one right here, or even like this one to an extent, or even like these, instead of like making them completely flat, maybe next time I do something like this, I will try my hardest to sort of plan out where my lights and darks are going to be, and then I will let the shadows speak for the form instead, if that makes sense. I don't do a lot of close. I need, yeah, I think that's the thing. I've been doing so many like far away shots. I need to do more like close ups. I think that's something I'm gonna try and do more of. Is like I'm gonna try and like instead of like bringing my frame way out, I'm gonna bring it in a bit closer, just so we can see a bit more. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna bring the camera back up to face me real quick. It's great that you explain what you learn at the end of each live as it's actually teaching you as it's actually teaching you more the act of teaching. You're right. You're right. If it's one thing I learned from university is that I was able to sort of retain stuff better if I was like explaining things to others. So I do think it's very important to be self-reflective in that regard. And I think the easiest way to sort of uh, have that self-reflection is through the act of like explication, if that makes sense. Ugh. Here we are. Oh my goodness. Okay, we are there. Um, I am so close to 500 subs. Ugh. I know. It feels almost surreal. Never in my life did I ever think I would have 500 followers on like anything. Not that I place a lot of importance on social media. The only social media I have right now is Blue Sky, just as like another avenue to like advertise like art and videos, and YouTube. I deleted Instagram. Uh, I've never had Twitter. Um, Reddit. I deleted my Reddit app. Um, just so like having like a large amount of followers is not something that like I am used to. Um, but I am very thankful, of course, for everybody that tunes in. That's everybody who watches these, and that wants to not only just like support me, but also kind of just like follow me with with my journey, my own journey, because Yes, a YouTube channel is existing for the purposes of documentation, um, for like others to see, but it's also like a form of documentation for myself. I mean, that's the same philosophy that I have with like sketchbooks, right? It's that this is a way for me to like keep track of my progress and to like to learn. And that's the same thing that I'm using the YouTube for. It's supplementary to the art, and it's a way to document my progress and also to use as a learning experience, because I'm able to look back at myself and sort of be self-critical. And also through people like you who are watching this right now, uh, anytime you leave a comment, that sort of pushes me in the right direction. I'm able to be critical of that as well. So I'm infinitely thankful of everybody. I'm infinitely thankful for you watching this right now. So thank you. It means a lot to me. Um, Whenever we reach 500 subs, um, I don't know if I'd like do a Q&A or something. I might do a Q&A. I don't know. I might do a Q&A live stream. Um, a Q&A video would be all right, but like I don't know. Maybe I'll make a post. Maybe when I get a bit closer to 500 subs, I'll make a post and I'll be like, this is a Q&A. So maybe look out for that. Next stream is Saturday, right? Yes, we will be seeing you all same time next Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, CST. I think that's what CST stands for. Um, United States Mumbo Jumbo. Yeah. Uh, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you all have a great night. I'm gonna go and get a little snack, brush my teeth, take a shower, maybe in that order, and I'm gonna go to bed. So, in your place, it's 3:24 a.m. I'm sorry, you don't have to stay up so late. Have a good night. Have a good night, and the rest of you, have a good night as well. We will see you next week. Au revoir.